Coming up on Cronkite News, the Arizona legislature may have come up with a solution to the looming cap on education spending.
Plus, the Phoenix Police Department is donating robots to Arizona State University, all in the name of engineering.
And later on Break It Down, ending the taboo against talking about mental health. We share ways to be open about concerns and asking for help.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Raina Preciado.
And I'm Mitchell Zimmerman. Thanks for joining us.
About $1.1 billion is at stake for public schools across Arizona. The aggregate expenditure cap that fluctuates depending on enrollment and inflation, a cap that can't be exceeded unless approved by 2/3 of the legislature. Cronkite News reporter Faith Abercrombie says that after weeks of uncertainty, there may be some movement at the Capitol to lift the spending cap for schools.
We cannot sit by and let this happen.
Arizona parents gathered on the Capitol lawn to send a message to legislators voting on the override of the education spending cap. Lisa Hoberg wants legislators to make it simple.
These are big dollars that our schools really need, and they absolutely need to just be allowed to spend them because they're budgeted, they've already been paid for by taxpayers, and we need a simple yes vote to allow us to finish the school year out.
The legislation was introduced by Speaker of the House Rusty Bowers this week. It passed the House Tuesday with bipartisan support.
I'm grateful that we could be here to make it official and let this money go so that they can enjoy it and put it to good use.
This small victory comes after weeks of uncertainty as Republicans waited to lift the cap, even though in the past it was a routine matter. Superintendent of Public Instruction Kathy Hoffman says the cap needs to be repealed permanently.
To me, the cap is very outdated and should not be holding back the students of today.
Parents like Claudia Armadera say they still fear cuts that could impact teachers, extracurriculars, and transportation.
You're just running around thinking, what am I going to do next? Am I going to focus on transportation? Am I going to focus on my job so I can, switch my job hours so I can pick up my daughter in time?
The bill needs to be approved by the Senate before moving to the governor's desk. And Lisa Hoberg says it's time for the lawmakers to be an example to the kids.
They have the opportunity to show our students that they can work together and vote on things that are important for the future of our students.
In Phoenix, Faith Abercrombie, Cronkite News.
Senate President Karen Fann says passage through the Senate is more difficult because one lawmaker is out on family leave. 5 Republicans will need to join with Democrats for the bill to pass the state Senate.
There's a chance that all future Arizona election ballots may be counted by hand. That's the wish of Republican Senator Wendy Rogers, who's pushing legislation that would require every ballot cast in the state to be hand counted. The Senate Government Committee approved Rogers' proposal with a 4-3 vote yesterday afternoon. Rogers says the legislation would, quote, do away with machines and lessen the risk of technological mistakes being made during ballot counts. Rogers' proposal is one of many election bills currently making their way through the legislature. Republican Senator Kelly Townsend has concerns about the required use of Sharpies on election ballots and is working on legislation that would ban it. Education in Arizona is affected by teacher shortages. A new report says hundreds of teaching positions are available and need to be filled. Cronkite News reporter Valeria Rodriguez explains what's causing the problem and what's being done to solve it.
As more teachers are needed, schools are getting creative in how they find good candidates, how they can help those be interested in teaching, but don't have a state certification yet. As of January, there are more than 1,900 teacher vacancies, according to the Arizona School Personnel Administrators Association.
It's definitely made it harder on educators to have to, deal with a lesser workforce.
Diaz from the Arizona Autism Charter School says they have used innovative ways to find retainable teachers.
We have gotten very creative to get the teachers that we need for our students. We recruit from out of state and even out of the country. In some instances, we have sponsored teacher visas to get math and science teachers to our school.
Teachers and education officials say they see more teachers calling in sick because of COVID.
teacher absences more than doubled. I think it was 220% increase compared to the January in the previous 2 years.
The ASPA also reported more than 1,600 teachers that severed employment as of January 2022, and over 70% separated employment and held a standard teacher certificate. Diaz and our team are prioritizing having committed and dedicated teachers in their classrooms.
We are engaging and applying for a teacher self-certification program where we can take teachers who have a great skill set and have a bachelor's degree, and we can certify them through our own training at our own school, because the training that we give them is very specific and very specialized. So it's really wonderful to address the teacher shortage by training our own teachers.
According to the report, over 3,000 teacher positions have already been filled by alternative methods. In the studio, Valeria Rodriguez, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix Police Department recently donated 2 retired police robots to Arizona State University's School of Engineering. Cronkite News reporter Nick Shesky spoke with some members of the school about what these 2 robots could add to students' education.
Previously, the robots were used to go into potentially hazardous situations, to defuse bombs and find other dangerous devices. Now, these mechanical workhorses are finding a second career, teaching, or more specifically, using their insides for science. A big problem with studying robotics is that complex robots are hard to get your hands on.
Oftentimes, the robotic systems that students have access to are relatively low-cost and simpler robots.
The small robots that students work on in the classrooms are a good starting point, but many of them are nowhere near as complex as these 2 bomb-detecting robots who come from the real world.
In research labs and in the classroom, when we build different types of robots, probably reliability is not really the most important character we want on top of the list. But here, if you're really using these bomb detection and bomb removal robots in real world, reliability is probably the top priority.
These robots here give students at Arizona State University valuable hands-on experience with dealing with robotics. So it's safe to say, while these robots no longer serve their designed purpose, their purpose now lies within their design.
The systems in these robots are very sophisticated. ASU engineering students with many focuses, mechanical, electrical, computer science, or even artificial intelligence, will be able to tear apart and modify these robots to understand all of the interdisciplinary work from many fields that it takes to build just one robot.
My club actually had a SWAT robot, a bomb disarming robot, and we played around with it, gutted it, redid the insides, and it was very helpful.
Even though the robots are not being studied right now, Wenlong Zhang is certain these robots will have a long future of educating students at the university.
The robots may not even look similar to what they look like right now, down the road, 5 years, 10 years. And I think more importantly, the impact of these robots will be long-lasting just because it basically just bridges the gap for our students from their classroom to the real world.
The robots are currently awaiting a decision on their future. They could be used in a professor's lab for research, or perhaps given to a student club or organization to give undergraduate engineering students hands-on experience. In the studio, Nick Shesky, Cronkite News.
NASA's new Webb Space Telescope sent its first pictures back to Earth from 1 million miles away last Friday. What the telescope captured was a little surprising. The James Webb Telescope took what could be called a selfie, sending NASA back a picture of itself. Now in position, the telescope was able to do a trial run test of its iconic gold mirror and near-infrared camera. Pictures are expected to be blurry at this time, as NASA scientists fine-tune the equipment. Beyond the selfie, the telescope also captured a bright solitary star in the distant Ursa Major constellation. NASA is promising that when it's fully functional, the new telescope could forever change the way we see the universe. With everything from high winds to sunny weather, here's Andrea Villalobos with our forecast for this week.
Good evening, Arizona. We are looking at some wind advisories. Take a look at this southeastern part of the state. We have one here as well as in Lake Havasu City and Quartzsite. But take a look at those wind speeds. We do see them at about 20 miles an hour in Tombstone, 23 up here in Quartzsite. But by tomorrow in the afternoon, Thursday in the afternoon, it does clear up in that southeastern part of the state, but stays pretty strong up here, 19 miles an hour at both Lake Havasu City and Quartzsite. But by the weekend, we are seeing pretty much no chance of wind here in the valley, as well as it clearing up in Tombstone with about just only 11 miles an hour. In northern Arizona, we do see a chance of precipitation about 60% in Payson, 50% in Sedona, with some lows about 30 degrees there. So make sure you're bundling up if you're in the northern country. We don't really see any of that here in the valley. In Phoenix, though, we're looking at a high tomorrow of 61 degrees here in Phoenix, 60 in Ajo, but it does look at about 71 degrees in Yuma. Tonight, we do have a pretty much clear sky ahead. We have some clouds at about 8 p.m., but it should clear up by 10 p.m. at about a 65-degree high. Next week, we also have some great skies. We have a chance of cloud coverage on Wednesday. You see that high at about 61 degrees. Coming into the weekend, we have some sun here, a little bit of clouds on Sunday at 76 degrees, but coming into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we do see a 20% chance of cloud coverage. Wednesday, that high is going to be 58, a lot colder than we've been used to in the last week or so. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Andrea Villalobos.
I'm Marty Salvo. Coming up after the break, I'll have your Cronkite Sports Report. MLB and the MLBPA are still in the midst of CBA negotiations. We'll have more on what this means for spring training and opening day coming up.
Cronkite News is more than your local news station. Through our innovative ideas, we create new ways to connect with our viewers and have their stories be heard. Our cutting-edge technology allows us to take a deeper dive into seeking the truth and delivering new perspectives. Stay up to date on top Arizona stories anytime on TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at Cronkite News.
It's prime time on your time. Watch Prime Afternoons every weekday on Arizona PBS. Did you miss a show in the evening? Then catch up on Prime Afternoons. Your favorite dramas.
No more bloody heroics.
Antiques Roadshow.
Really?
Nature and Nova.
It's time to reintroduce some wonder into this miracle of nature.
All of the best from PBS on Prime Afternoons. Weekdays starting at 1:30, only on Arizona PBS.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
Here we go, lights up. Whoa.
As artists, we conduct our educations in public. You can never know whether it's going to be a success. One just has to risk it.
It's you and the work and the place. It's a very particular relationship.
Here's our lens. Tell us what you think.
Friday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
Welcome back to Cronkite News. I'm Marty Salvo, and this is your Cronkite Sports Report. Today would have been the first day that pitchers and catchers report for spring training, but that didn't happen because of the MLB lockout. Salt River Field's home to the Arizona Diamondbacks sits empty as the league and players union failed to reach a deal on a new collective bargaining agreement. For now, spring training has been delayed indefinitely. Meanwhile, at Sloan Park in Mesa, the Cubs minor leaguers were working out. Minor league players are not a part of the union and therefore are not subject to the lockout. So far, opening day is still set for March 31st. ASU softball wrapped up the Kajikawa Classic over the weekend, winning 3 of the 5 matchups, including an upset victory over number 20 Duke. The tournament is one of the most prestigious in the country and is named after a member of the ASU Hall of Fame. Cronkite News reporter Hayden Weber tells the story of the man they call Mr. Sun Devil.
The Kajikawa Classic is a staple of college softball, which is held at Farrington Stadium at the beginning of every season. Arizona State welcomes teams from all over the country to play in the tournament, which honors a man who gave everything to his institution. Bill Kajikawa is the definition of an ASU lifer.
Coached so many sports. He was an advocate in the community, somebody that, bled Sun Devil, maroon and gold. And so for us, it's just kind of an honor to be able to kind of continue that tradition.
Kajikawa joined the football program as an assistant after his playing career ended in 1937 and remained with the team well into the 70s. He also served as head coach of the baseball and basketball teams from 1946 to 1957, making him the lone Japanese-American head coach in collegiate sports at the time. Even after his coaching days, his presence in the athletic department could still be felt.
And he just had a great sense about him, and people just loved him. I mean, and that's why he's in our Hall of Fame. That's why we've got the football practice fields named after him.
While Coach Kajikawa is remembered as an icon within Sun Devil athletics, one of his crowning achievements was being part of a very special military unit during World War II.
He became part of that unit, which is called the 442nd. The 442nd Regimental Team is the most decorated regiment in the Army history.
After serving alongside a historic unit in Europe, Kajikawa returned home to coach his beloved Sun Devils. In Phoenix, Hayden Weber, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix Suns take on the Los Angeles Clippers tonight at Footprint Center. They currently hold the best record in the NBA. Part of their success could be attributed to the trust that the head coach, Monty Williams, has in his players, especially in the conversation he has with veteran point guard Chris Paul.
He'll come to me with something, I'm like, run with it, you know, that kind of thing. Because I always feel like when players come to you with something, they've thought through it. I'm like, go ahead, take ownership of it, and I just tell them to do it, you know, that kind of thing. So conversations are really cool, but there's a lot that we talk about.
That's it for today's Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Raina.
A quick correction to a story regarding sustainable fuel we told you about last Tuesday. 4 million passengers traveled through Phoenix Sky Harbor last December, not all of last year. That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.